Welcome to BootSpy. My name is William. Today I'll be reviewing the Velasca Resegott. I'm going to talk about the leather quality, sole quality, fit and sizing, and ultimately whether or not this Italian Alpine hiking boot is right for you. Let's get into it. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. As I said, today I'm reviewing the Velasca Resegott, and I'm actually going to talk about why I think this is my favorite hiking boot, even though it doesn't have all the cool tech, it doesn't have Gore-Tex, doesn't have all the cool stuff that most hiking boots do. This is an old school Alpine boot, and it is awesome. For a quick overview of the Resegott, so this is from Velasca. They're a brand that I don't hear much about. There are no reviews online, basically, of Velasca, and they're an Italian brand. They're really cool, and they have a great selection of boots. I think they just haven't expanded much into the US market, but I got wind of them. I've been checking them out, and the first boot that I got of theirs is the Resegott. I've been looking for a pair of Italian Alpine hiker boots, or German Alpine. I don't know if they're German or Italian. I don't know who made this style. I'm just gonna say the Italians did for the sake of this video. But I think this style is really cool. It's definitely, the hallmark is the D-ring eyelets all the way up to the top, and it's got some speed hooks. And of course, this is made with a waxed suede or an oiled suede. So it's very, very weatherproof. And there's some really interesting, really cool things about this boot that only my $600 boots have in common. For the style of these boots, they're actually quite slim for a hiking boot. So if you check on Velasca's website, they have all these like cool Italian dudes riding like snowmobiles and stuff like that. So definitely makes me want to be a cool Italian dude riding a snowmobile. But it doesn't snow out here. I don't have a snowmobile, and I can't grow facial hair like a cool Italian guy. So all of that's out for me. But I can still wear these boots. These go really well with jeans. You can wear these with shorts if you want, if it's summer, you know, if it's hot. But these are pretty good all around. They're not really, they're pretty stylish for hiking boots, for sure. They're definitely the most stylish hiking boots I've ever seen. But hiking boots in general just aren't super stylish. But these are pretty narrow in the toe box, so they do work well with a pair of slim jeans or regular fit jeans, or you can wear them with your cool technical hiker pants that zip off at the knees, whatever you want. This is a 5-inch boot, so most boots that you are familiar with are 6 inches, so it's a little bit shorter. It comes up just above the ankle, and it has this cool padded collar. It has all the D-ring eyelets, like I said, and then one of the really, really cool things about this boot is that it has a fully gusseted tongue. So the gusset goes all the way up to the top of the ankle right there, which basically, when you combine the leather, the construction, and I'll talk more about those parts later, but when you combine the gusset, the leather, and the construction, it's a basically waterproof boot. There's none that I know of that are waterproof leather boots that don't have like a Gore-Tex lining or something in there that is a synthetic fabric that actually waterproofs it. So this is like waterproofed in the old school way. Velasca doesn't market this as a waterproof boot, and I think it's because it's not like 100% waterproof. It is old school, but it's waxed, oiled, has a double stitch down construction and a fully gusseted tongue, and that is about as close to waterproof as you can get for a leather boot like this. Last thing to note on the style section is that it also comes with another pair of shoelaces. I think I'm gonna swap these out. And for the red, I like the red shoelaces a little bit more than the brown. Comes with the brown, but the red are pretty fun. I'm gonna bust those out and put those on. So that's a nice little fun fact. The packaging is super, super nice, and I really enjoyed it, and I'm gonna put these red laces on. As for the leather quality, this is suede calf leather that has been oiled. They have a few different versions. They have some full grain, brown, black, and I think they have a lined version that uses Scottish wool. Has a Scottish wool lining, which looks really, really cool for winter. But this leather is thick enough, sturdy enough to wear. I don't think you need any lining if you don't want, but maybe if your feet are submerged in snow all day, it could help. But basically, this leather is really, really nice. It is a bit tough to break in. I'll talk more about that later. But essentially, you're getting a waterproof leather because it is so oiled and waxed, and the texture is really nice. And as you continue wear this in, you get this really cool like marbling effect. They call it chiaroscuro because they're Italian, and they can just say words like chiaroscuro, but basically it's this like marbled type leather look that I think is only gonna improve. It's only gonna get cooler and cooler looking as I break these boots in more. So the upper leather is pretty thick. I couldn't get a read on how thick the leather is, but it feels very substantial. There's also a full suede leather lining in this boot as well. And between the suede lining and the leather upper, there's a membrane in there. They don't tell you what the membrane is, but it's something that adds a little bit more waterproofing, water resistance to this boot overall. So I think, in terms of how they've put this boot together and the leather, they're using top-notch stuff, and I'm really, really impressed with it. Moving on to the sole, this is the Vibram Caramato sole, which is Italian for tank tread. I think I got my research right on that one. But basically, this is one of the first types of soles designed for alpine hiking. And pretty fun fact, the founder of Vibram, he had 6 of his friends die alpine hiking, and one of the big reasons they did a report on it, and one of the big reasons they said it was inadequate footwear. And so he set out to create a rubber sole that would be substantial enough to stand up to some crazy alpine hikes, and this was the sole he came up with. So this is the reason why Vibram is such a popular company today, is because the founder of Vibram wanted to create a sole that would be able to do extreme hikes. And so this was the sole. The first people to ever summit K2, they had this type of sole on their boot. Little fun fact, now it's on this one. Does that mean I'm gonna climb K2? Yes. 100%. Earlier in this video, I said that the Velasca Resegott has something in common with my $600 pair of White's Packers, and that is the double stitch down construction right here. So this is something that I haven't seen in many pairs of boots. I've seen it done wrong once with the Clark's Desert boot. They do a stitch down construction and it's just kind of cheesy. But for this one, this is a fantastic way of creating or constructing a pair of hiking boots. It's a pretty traditional, old school style of attaching an upper to a sole. And basically the leather is just kind of flared out at the bottom and it is stitched directly into the sole. And what that means is that adds, especially with the double stitch, you get twice the durability. But with the stitch down construction, it's really hard for water to get in there. There's no real place for the water to seep into this boot. So especially when you oiled all that oiled leather there, it's just gonna repel water, and ultimately it's gonna make for a very, very water resistant boot. Plus, if the sole ever wears out, which, I mean, like, look at this thing, is this gonna wear out? If you do a lot of hikes with it, there's a chance it'll wear out. And if it does, it is super easy for a cobbler to remove the stitches there, put on a new sole. Just make sure that you don't damage any of the leather around that stitch right there. If you damage too much of the leather, you run the chance of, that's what the stitch goes into. So if you remove that material, that's one of the downsides with stitch down construction, is that if you damage the leather too much, you can't put a new sole on it. But it's really not likely to happen, especially because the leather we're talking about here is pretty thick, so it's not like a casual kick is gonna damage it too much. The insole is made with leather. It has a cork filler, and I believe there is a steel shank in this, so it fits all the mold of most heritage boots. This boot is entirely constructed in Italy, so it's made in Montenegro, Italy, and the Vibram sole is an Italian Vibram sole. There are many Vibram soles made in the USA. This one's made in Italy, so everything on this boot is coming from Italy. That's a really cool thing, especially if you're really big into Italian stuff. I think my top 3 Italian things are pizza, Negronis, and this boot. For picking the right sizing, they do typically go by European sizing. I got a 43.5, which is equivalent to a 10.5. That is my normal sneaker size, so I ended up getting the same sneaker size I did, or if I was gonna get a 10.5, you just easily translate that over. That would become a 43.5. I think I also could have gone a half size smaller, which would be a 43, and that would do pretty well because it is a little bit wide here at the ball of your foot, but they're really comfortable, and I wore them around. There's some break-in issues that I'll talk about next, and I think that's because it's a little bit big on me, but with hiking boots, sometimes you're doing long walks, 6, 7, 8 miles. Sometimes it could be in the heat and your foot can swell up. So I decided to go with just my true sneaker size and deal with a little bit of the extra wiggle room in exchange for the fact that my feet will swell up. I'll be able to break that leather in. It won't be that much of an issue. But yeah, so I just got my true sneaker size, 43.5, and that seems to be working really well. They're comfortable right out the gate, but I got them that size rather than a half size smaller, because if you're doing a lot of hiking, your feet will swell a little bit, and I think this will just be more comfortable with a little bit extra room. Like I said, the break-in, there was a little bit around the ball of my foot, nothing in the heel. I didn't get any blisters. There's just a little bit of rubbing in the ball of the foot right there, and I think that's because I did get a half size larger than I probably needed to. Again, I just told you why I got a half size larger. But yeah, so minor break-in. Otherwise, waxed suede is pretty easy to break in. It's pretty supple leather, and everything in here might take a couple days to sink in, to kind of break in and everything like that, but nothing major. Here's my final verdict on the Velasca Resegott. So I've been looking for an Alpine hiking boot that looked really high quality and that would actually be usable for hiking. I do have a great pair of hiking boots from Basque, but they're super technical, and I think that's really cool and everything like that. But I'm a boot guy first and foremost, more than I am a hiking guy. So for me, finding something that was built like a heritage boot, built like they used to build Alpine hiking boots, and it looks really good. This caught my eye immediately. So this goes for $330 at the time of filming this, and to me, that's a fantastic value. So it is 100% made in Italy. It has that double stitch down construction. It's virtually waterproof, which is really cool for a heritage style boot. I love the fact that the tongue is gusseted all the way up to the top, and that's really practical. So I could, walk into a river, which I probably will, and I don't have to worry so much. So long as I don't submerge my feet above the ankle, I shouldn't have to worry about my feet getting wet at all, which is really cool. This is my first experience with Velasca. I don't think it'll be my last. I'm gonna go through the spring and summer and hike these boots. I'm gonna try and destroy them. And if they're holding up well by next boot season in the fall, I'll probably go back and get something different from Velasca, because right now I'm really impressed with this boot, and I'm excited to see how it does. If you found this video helpful, please give me a thumbs up. And if you wanna see more boot reviews, you can subscribe down below. Thank you again for watching, and until next time, put your best boot forward.